interpret the college football playoff standings for me. How do you interpret what the committee put out there on Tuesday night?
I think the committee reinforced something that I think a lot of us thought might happen, which was they dropped Ohio State a little further down than maybe people thought it was going to be.
I thought it's too high. No, I'm not saying that for rivalry purposes. I mean, Texas and Alabama's playing for their titles.
But and if they win, they will leapfrog Ohio State.
You do believe that?
Oh yeah, because they'd be conference champs. If Alabama beats Georgia, they're leapfrogging a bunch of people, not just Ohio State.
Okay, because to me this indicates, hey, all Florida State's got to do, all Ohio State needs is Florida State slips up and they're moving forward. Otherwise, why not put Ohio State down below Alabama, right?
I think what Ohio State needs to have happen is they certainly need Florida State to lose. I think they need Georgia. I think they need Georgia to win. You know, they need obviously Michigan to win. Ohio State, then maybe they could be into the number 4 slot. But they really need I think they not only need Florida State to lose. I think they need Texas to get knocked off by Oklahoma State too. I think it's going to be a harder sell. I mean, Oklahoma State's not a very good team, especially by conference championship game standards.
Right.
But if you're Ohio State, I think the thing that also hurts them a little bit, they have Penn State's number 10, Notre Dame is a solid win on the road, but that's about it. And they had a close loss at Michigan. I think the thing that hurts them a little, significantly is when you look at that team, they do not look as dangerous as the team last year. The team last year had C.J. Stroud, and that gave them a puncher's chance against anybody. They almost took down Georgia, and they came within the last second field goal of doing that. Kyle McCord, of what I think the committee has looked and seen, is a good young quarterback. There's a big difference now in that offense. And I think I don't think they have as much of a fear factor as an opponent as the team last year did. I just don't think, just from seeing them a lot last year and seeing this team now a lot in person, they're not as good. They may be a little better on defense, but offensively they are not the same team.
So let's put it up one more time because I've got a few questions. Let's just go through one at a time. So what the conference playoff, college football playoff rankings show, winner of Pac-12 in, loser out, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Florida State wins, they're in.
They need to be. They deserve 13-0, and you whipped the third best team in the SEC by like 3 or 4 touchdowns. Yeah, I think they deserve
Okay,
it.
so we're not discounting, because you hear that they want the best teams, not the deserveds. They want the best. So how do you say that a team that's undefeated with their backup quarterback over, a Texas team that's Quinn Ewers, quarterbacked, right? I mean, in all honesty.
Honestly, those are the 2 worst Power 5 conferences, the Big 12 right now and the ACC. But still, if the backup quarterback leads them to a win over, right now it's a 2-loss Louisville team, I mean, I still think you can't just diminish everything they've done because you just think
I'm with you.
The backup quarterback's not that good.
Okay. And so Texas wins. How does Texas get in if Alabama beats Georgia? How does that happen?
They need a lot of help. I think
even though Texas has beaten Alabama, I mean, like, let's cape for the Longhorn fan right now because they're like, it shouldn't matter. Like, we beat.
I get it.
I mean, they finally friggin' beat Alabama, and Alabama's still going to go with the same.
And the irony here is they would be really being snubbed by the aura of the league they're about to become. The idea that an SEC champ is going to get left out doesn't compute for anybody. It just doesn't, and it's unfortunate. But I think that the rationale that they would talk themselves into is Alabama with a much improved Jalen Milroe, not the same guy that Texas played early in the year. Now, it's not to say Texas hasn't improved from that point on either, but I think Alabama has improved as much as anybody from the beginning of the season to now, especially Jalen Milroe. If they beat Georgia, I think we're going to look at them way differently. It hasn't happened yet, so we haven't digested it yet.
Right.
But what happens in college football, and I feel like it's way different than it is in other sports because there's just way less games. But when you see stuff happen, it's like we look at them differently. Like, we looked at LSU differently when they went to Tuscaloosa with Joe Burrow and they beat Alabama. At that point, it was like, ooh, we just remember all the stuff that had happened before. And then you kind of look, oh, Clyde is actually really good. And this guy's really good. And it's like they're on a different level. And we look at them differently when it happens. If Jalen Milroe beats Georgia, we will look at Jalen Milroe and Alabama much differently. I almost promise you. I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen. But I think if it does, I think that'll be, a collective narrative.
Makes complete sense. And the flip side of that is true too, because speaking on behalf of a lot of Wolverine fans watching this season play out, feeling how our team 144 as we refer to them looks, and how deep the team is, and how, as you even pointed out, how many NFL players are on this roster right now. We're feeling really good about the long term hopes for this season, because Georgia looks less than. Right? They don't look like the Georgia the last 2 years. Georgia goes and beats Alabama, it'll be like, oh, okay. They go for a three-peat right now. They'll look a hell of a lot more different in the eyes of a lot of people what if they pound Alabama and just win that game just going in style? It'll be like, there's your three-peat right there.
Well, it'll erase some of the skepticism that people who watched Auburn and a way less athletic quarterback than Jalen Milroe run all over them for a while.
Yes.
Now, if they shut down Jalen Milroe, I think that would be a big statement for them. I think it's also a chance. Carson Beck has quietly, about as quiet as you can be on the number one team, been very, very impressive. But I think, fair or unfair, the benchmark for him now at Georgia is going to be, Stetson Bennett really lit it up in the playoffs. That's when he was seemed like he was just a playmaker and did, I get it. He's not 6'4", and he doesn't do a lot of the same stuff that, you want people evaluate and look for. But he was a really good playmaker in the playoffs, and he seemed like he was pretty unflappable, and he rose to the moment. That's the challenge, I think, now for Carson Beck, if he can show he can do that. Because right now, Missouri's pretty good, but they haven't played anybody who'd say, okay, this is a legit playoff team. And they will play a legit playoff caliber team this weekend.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.